Good morning, everybody. I'm outside, gonna get chores done. Not sure all of what today is gonna entail, but I think I'm gonna take a trip down to the salvage yard and get rid of some metals. I have some copper and some brass and some auto radiators and some AC radiators. I'm gonna take down there and sell, make a little money. My first payment on my Morton building's coming up next month, first part of February. So I'm gonna scrounge up some metal so I can go to the bank and make the first payment. So when I get started here, gathering up my scrap and cleaning it and stuff, I'll show you the whole process of what I gotta do to get it ready. When I say get it ready, so you kind of understand. That's one way I make a little money here on the homestead, is scrapping metal. So when I get started, I'll show you. All right, here's a sample of something that I scrap out when I have them. What this is an auto radiator, and it's out of an older vehicle. So it's made out of brass and copper. Here's one that come out of an older vehicle. They come out of a car I had. This come out of a pickup that I scrapped here just a few weeks back. But anyhow, as you can see, right here on the end, there was some metal brackets. I took them off because they don't want any steel or anything on there. I still have to take this hose off and this hose off here. That's from the transmission cooler lines. And I got to take this little metal wing tab off that. That's the cockpit for the drain the antifreeze, but I got to take that little metal piece off and remove these hoses. And then that radiator is considered clean. As you can see, this one here, it still has its metal bracket on top and bottom. And I got to remove the radiator cap. And I got to remove this steel line here and here in the fitting, and remove this clamp and that piece of hose. So, and there's a little metal tab here I got to pull off there. So I just take my torch here, my cutting torch, and heat it up, or heat up that metal, and that metal piece comes off. I'll burn all that stuff off so it's clean. You get more per pound that way. Okay, right here, what I have is two pieces of scrap that would be considered electric motors. This is the windings, or actual motor, that came out of a compressor, like in your refrigerator or freezer. So if you cut those compressors open, there's this in there. There's an armature that's in the center of that, and that's in the compressor. It circulates your freon through your refrigerator. Right here is electric transformer. As you can tell, that's been burned off. Well, the reason I burnt this off is because all these windings are copper. And I weighed this piece up. I've cleaned some others just like this, and I weighed this up, and it weighs 10 pounds. And half of it is steel, and the other half is copper. So I got 5 pounds of copper in that motor. Now this one here, as you can see, it's got windings. And if you're wondering why I didn't burn it off, is because I'm going to sell this as an electric motor. These both could be sold as electric motors, but this is worth tearing apart and getting the copper out of it. This isn't, because these small wires right here inside, those windings inside here, they are copper, but these outside windings are aluminum. And so you can make more money selling this as electric motor, because I can get 28 cents a pound for this motor, and it weighs 16 pounds, so that's $4.48. And say if I took this windings out, this inner windings, I bet there ain't even a half a pound there. Well, currently I can get $3.75 a pound for number 2 copper, which that's what this would be considered as number 2. And so I'd only get like $1.87 out of that copper windings there if I took it apart. And then I just get a little bit for the metal. So I'm more than doubling my money by selling it as electric motor rather than strip it apart and try and get what little bit of clean copper I'd have. The rest of the aluminum, you put them in the fire, you know, there ain't even a pound of aluminum there, so I'm more than doubling my money there. Now this, on the other hand, that weighed 10 pounds, 5 pounds of it being copper. And if I would go and sell that as electric motor at 28 cents, you're talking $2.80. But if I have 5 pounds of copper at $3.75, you're talking $18.75. So I'm going to sell this. That's just $18.75 out of that little bit of copper there, not counting the steel. You know, steel weighs 5 pounds. Number 2 steel right now, say it's 200 a ton, so 10 cents a pound, and it weighs 5 pounds, so that's another 50 cents on top of that. So $19.25 out of that. Or I could sell it as electric motor at 28 cents, or $2.80 for the complete. So I'd rather have the $19.25 rather than $2.80. So when you go and scrap, you gotta be smart about it, I guess, to make the most money. Some people don't care. It's just junk to them. They throw it in a load and they haul it in. But working in the scrap yard for so many years, or scrapping for so many years, I've been doing this since I was a kid, you learn to make the most out of everything. And that's another reason why I don't let things go to waste. There's a value in everything. And if you do it right, there's even more value in it. Right here is another mess of motors that aren't worth tearing apart. These 3 here for sure I know have aluminum windings in them. That one there, it might have some copper windings, but it's not very heavy when I lift it compared to other motors the same size. And these others are just too hard to tear apart. Plus they don't have a lot of copper in them. So you're making way more money selling those electric motors at 28 cents a pound than what you're going to get out of a little dab of copper. Here's a compressor that's in a central air unit. I'll unbolt this thing, probably not today, but I gotta find out a price on these compressors. Sometimes it's not worth taking the torch and cutting the top open and taking those windings out like that one I showed you earlier in this video. Because sometimes they do have aluminum windings rather than all copper windings. Most generally have all copper, but you come across a few like that one I showed you that does have aluminum windings. The last time I sold some of these, I was making more money selling them complete like this than what I would have if I cut them open, taking the copper windings out. So I was making better money. I was selling them as compressors. They're kind of like an electric motor. You sell them complete unit. But if I was to cut that open, take the windings out, I would sell this case and all the steel that's inside. I'd sell it as number 2 steel, and then I'd burn off that electric motor and take the copper out and sell the copper. But I was making way better money leaving them as a complete unit. I had one that I cut open. I weighed it before I cut it open. I cut it open and I cleaned it, and say I was getting, say it had a pound of copper in it, you know, and I don't know what the copper was at the time, say $2.50 a pound. And I forget what the steel, the case might have weighed 30 pounds, you know. Well, I done the math and I ended up losing like $1.50 or $2 by cleaning the darn thing. And then I had my time spent in it, so I was losing money all the way around. So sometimes it's better to sell these complete is to try and clean them. Here's what we call an A coil or AC radiator. What it is 2 radiators. They're made out of aluminum with copper tubing running through them. As you can see, this come out of a furnace. It's for the central air unit, is what it's for. But anyhow, this come from my mom's house. They went all electric heat and stuff, so they removed the old furnace. It was outdated by a long ways anyhow. And she gave this to me. And in order to clean this, I take a chisel. I actually have an old wood chisel because it's got a nice sharp edge, and a hammer, and I chisel these loops off. It cuts them really close to the edge of this metal, and then you got to take this piece of metal off. I just take a hammer and whack it off, and it comes off once I chisel all them loops. So all these loops are copper. They go in your number 2 copper along with this piece of pipe here, aluminum tubing. And but that's what I got to do to clean that. And then as you can see right here is the central air unit for my mom's house. And what I'm going to do is take that metal shell off. Of course, that'll just go in the shred, what they call shred. But it's got great big radiators, or at least one big radiator in there on this back side, about the whole length of that thing. And there's a lot of copper tubing, electric wire, and then there's also electric motor in there. So I'll get good money out of that once I get it stripped down and get all the copper and the radiators and such out of it. So that's just something else that you can strip down and make some good money. Well, I hope that helped you guys and gave you some insight on the smart way of scrapping. I'm gonna get busy so I can get this stuff cleaned up and ready to go to the junkyard today. See y'all later, and don't forget I love you. Bye.